says we're live. So maybe we'll give it let's give it 30 seconds, make sure that people know we're in here. I'll kind of just read
Oh,
the chat. Okay. Um,
totally.
hey guys, just want to confirm that we're here, that you can see us.
I
Give
think we're
me
here.
thumbs up. Give me thumbs up in the comments if you can see, if you could see us, if you could hear us. You look so nice. Thank you so much. Okay, yay, we're live. This is
We did it.
my first live. Okay, yay. Okay, the chat's going crazy now. Okay, yay. All right. Okay, I'm excited. All right, guys. Hi, I'm Chris. Call me Chris, Chris Collins. I'm here with Joanna. Joanna, take it away. Where are you from? What are you doing? What are we doing?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. First of all, I share everyone's enthusiasm. We adore you. We think you are the best ever. I am so excited to be part of today's conversation. Thank you, Chris, for being a friend, a supporter, an advocate, all those things. And y'all, she is just as amazing as you all put her out to be, and even
Stop.
more so. So I just have to say that first and foremost. But
Aw.
thank you. Just
Yeah.
thank you for using your voice. Thank you for holding this conversation. So my name is Joanna Candell. I am the CEO of the National Alliance for Eating Disorders. The Alliance is the leading national nonprofit organization that does everything from free therapist-led support groups. We have our amazing therapist staffed helpline. We do a lot of work on social platforms, connecting people to care. But more than anything, we are here to walk next to individuals as well as their loved ones on their journey to recovery, which brings us to today. We are in the midst of Eating Disorders Awareness Week, and your beloved Chris has been so generous and so kind in being willing to hold this conversation today. So I want to thank each and every one of you. I know Chris put a comment box on her Instagram last week. Amazing responses, amazing questions. We compiled all of them.
Yep.
And that's what brought us here today. So let's get started with our conversation.
Yeah.
So, Chris, to get us started at the beginning, why was it important for you to share your personal experience with mental health and eating disorders so openly? Because you've done such a beautiful job.
Yeah, my thoughts when sharing my story was at that moment in time, I was up and coming on the internet and things were going crazy. And, I was trying to be myself as much as possible, but I was really in a low. And nobody knew that I was in recovery at that time. And I also struggled with depression and everything. And it was a very low point for me. And also for me, I found that looking at other creators that were going through recovery and that were bettering themselves really, really helped me and motivated me to continue with recovery, amongst other things. So I felt like, you know what, I'm just gonna just be completely honest what's going on. I didn't know what to expect. I was fully expecting people to I don't really know. I'm always expect worst. But it was overwhelmingly positive, and a lot of people could relate to what I was going through too. And I was like, oh my gosh, like there's a whole community of people out there, and I think it's so important to know in these types of situations specifically because they are so isolating. These diseases are so isolating. So that was my motivation behind that.
I love that you brought up community because for us at the Alliance, we really believe in healing and community, in bringing light to darkness. Eating disorders are so often shrouded in secrecy and
Mhm.
isolation. And even at the Alliance, being in community is so, so, so important. What do you think of community? Like when we talk about that word community, what does that look like and feel like for you? And why do you think it's so crucial in the healing process?
I mean, community, I mean, it's all these people in the comments right now. I can't stop looking at them. They're so positive and wonderful. And I'm so giddy and grateful for my audience specifically and the community that I've been able. Why am I crying? Also, TMI, close to my time of the month. Anyway, but just, but my community is so important to me. And I'm now forgetting the question. But like, what was the last part of your question?
I mean, but that's exactly, I mean, you literally just said
Okay.
the importance of community. Like,
Okay.
what does that look like? What does that feel like? How does that
Yeah.
work?
Yeah, no, it is so important. And like tailing off of what I've already said is that because you feel so alone, community is so important. Even if it's just a friend, if it's somebody online you've met, if it's your mom, if it's just anybody. A community doesn't necessarily need to be a ton of people. I'm just blessed enough to have that many people, and hopefully people, and I know people that within my own community have been able to reach out and they've been able to talk to each
Mhm.
other because of the space that I've created, which is so heartwarming and awesome to know. So it's just it's so important, and it's been crucial to my recovery for sure.
I think that that's exactly what it is. Is I do believe community is crucial, and something that I just want to share to your followers specifically is every time, Chris, you have shared about your experience with your eating disorder, your recovery. When you shared about the Alliance, it's almost immediate that we get phone calls into our helpline and
Yeah.
people that attend our support group. And I think that for so many of us, I also am someone of lived experience has struggled in silence for a very, very long time. And when I was struggling, what I craved so much is to be in a space, although at that time I didn't know that virtual spaces even existed,
Yeah.
but for someone to say, oh my gosh, me too, or same, or someone to say something and you're like, I thought I was the only person that
Yeah.
ever felt this way or thought this way. And in that moment, there starts to have cracks in that armor and light starts to come in and connection happens, community happens, and healing happens. And that is
Yeah.
what you have done for your community so beautifully.
Mm.
So it's such a significant part of the healing process. So
Hmm.
um, I hope you're able to lean into that, and I hope you're able
Yeah.
to realize what you've created for folks as well.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I resonate with what you were saying too, with the not even knowing the virtual aspect of it yet. It's yeah, it's very, and then there is a community, but then sometimes it's almost a negative community
Yeah.
within this
Yep.
realm, which you can
Yeah.
get caught up in as well, where it's almost like competition based or comparisons,
Yeah.
and that's what you need to get away from. That's the I have found that's the hardest part. And with being on the internet, like there's lots of
Yeah.
positivity, but then there's a lot of comparison and getting sucked back in, and it's a hard. That's why it's not a linear journey to recovery.
Yeah, and I think, something that you just said was so important is this idea of there can be so many triggers, right? Like
Yeah.
it can be, I mean, being online and creating this online community can be amazing, but it can also be very triggering. So,
Yeah.
without getting into, too many specifics, would you mind sharing some of the triggers that caused that perfect storm of the eating disorder to develop in your journey?
Oh yeah, like from the beginning. Yeah.
Wherever you want to
Or
start.
yeah, no, I
Yeah.
mean, I mean, for a lot of people that struggle with it, I mean, it started very young. Now going back and doing therapy and seeing, because for me, I was like, oh no, it really started when I was around 18, 19. But looking back, I mean, I was, reading magazines and looking at other women or other just people in general and wishing I looked exactly like them, or just constantly comparing myself, doing
Mhm.
crash diets since I've been in elementary school, which is just so sad. And I know that so
Yeah.
many people um, go through that. So it started very, very young for me. And I played sports when I was young, all from like 5 years old until I was in university. Um, it was a very big part of my life, and it distracted me a lot. So I think there was always that those fragments of an eating disorder, but I almost just didn't have time to give into them, and I because I needed the energy to play those sports. So once the sports went away when I was around 19, 18, 19, and I lost that thing to lean on, that I was just constantly moving my body and constantly like, you know, um, like holding that down, I was like, okay, I'm totally lost and I need something else, because I also have OCD, and a lot of people that struggle with this struggle with OCD as well or develop it. And that became part of it. I was like, okay, well, I guess I'll just go to the gym every single day. And I guess I'll just and that's when the calorie counting started, and that's when people started saying stuff like I was always, and I'm not gonna get into numbers or any sort of, because I don't think that helps anything, but I didn't look too much different. But people are just like, wow, you're going to the gym. That's so good. Oh my gosh, you eat so healthy. Oh my gosh, what are you doing? And then you're just like, okay, well, I can't stop. Like this is, and then it's just a spiral from there. It's being sad, it's being isolated, it's having control issues, and then it's just this evil spiral. And then you stop eating with your family. You can't go out anymore. And it just started to, but it was so, for me, it was very gradual. It was like healthy, like okay, and then it went, well, it was gradual and then it just dipped off. And everyone around me was like, who are you? Like I was a different person. I mean, I don't hate looking back at that person I was because it reminds me not to fall back into it. But I was just a whole different person, just a
Yeah.
angry little, like mean, just
Yeah.
so fixated on one thing. And it was terrible. And I didn't get help excuse me, until people in my circle, in my community,
Yeah.
started to push me towards that, thankfully. But yeah, that's kind of where it started. It was just very gradual. It was a very gradual thing for me. That was very long-winded. Sorry.
No, no, I think that thank you so much for
Yeah.
sharing all of that. And I think I am known to say this a lot. Like when people ask, I tell people it's not like I woke up one day, looked out the window and sunny insert your city that you're in and said, I think it's a beautiful day. I'm going to have an eating disorder today.
Yeah.
It's this real idea of the path to hell is filled with the best of intentions, right? Like you're
Yeah.
going on this health journey where you want to take care of yourself. And we live in a world that's so body centric, that's very diet centric, that's very
Yes.
weight focused. And to your point, when you were talking about those around you making comments, and if you're not feeling great about yourself, that boost of self-esteem, and then it's like well, if you think I look good now, just wait, and
Yeah.
you're chasing this image, this number that you're never going to get into because it's so unrealistic. And unfortunately, for many people, this journey of health then gets hijacked into disordered eating. And then for those of
Mhm.
us who are genetically predisposed to developing eating disorders, turns in to an eating disorder. And I think that, you know, one of the things we have to hold space for too is that, eating disorders serve a purpose. They're coping mechanisms. And as you said, you struggled with OCD, and so many people with eating disorders, they struggle with depression, anxiety, OCD,
Mhm.
PTSD, trauma, like you
Yep.
name it. And eating disorders are a way to navigate that. So I think, I guess as a follow-up question to that is, what is one thing that you wish people knew about eating disorders? Or two things?
Yeah. It's like where the list goes on
So
and
many
on.
things.
Yeah, right. Like, um, I guess one thing is that they all look completely different.
Yes.
Everybody thinks you need to look a certain way or weigh a certain amount or just eat a certain way. They look so different. And that's like the biggest one because I know for a lot of people, including myself, when I was, officially diagnosed, it was almost like I didn't get diagnosed until I was a certain number. And it almost was, and it's terrible to say, but invalidating in that moment. So it almost challenged me more to feel like I needed to be more sick. And that's how a lot of people feel. They don't feel validated enough that they're struggling. And I think, the healthcare system needs to work on that. It's just like you need to get into the nitty-gritty. You need to look at the habits. You need to look at what they're doing, how they're going about their day, how they're eating, how they're feeling. Like all of that is combined and it literally has nothing to do with the way you look. So that's like one of the biggest things for me and I know for a lot of people. And another thing is that they are so sneaky. So sneaky. Like and that's the hardest thing to see. And just from my own experience, I mean, I was like a freaking, I don't know, like an undercover spy, I felt like all the time, with like hiding stuff or just being like, no, I just don't feel good. Like, just like all these little things. So it's hard to find if you know someone that might be struggling. And, there's a lot of things to look for. But yeah, it's very sneaky. And also it looks very different on everyone.
Not thank you enough for bringing that up because I think so many people have that archaic stereotype of who develops eating disorders
Yeah.
and what they look like. And you and I talking about eating disorders, our eating disorder recovery, we fit some of those boxes, right? Like that
Yeah.
we're female identifying, that we live in smaller bodies. But the truth of the matter is that eating disorders do not discriminate between age, gender, race, class, sexual orientation, ability, neurodiversity, and
Yeah.
body shape and size. And in fact, out of all the people that struggle with eating disorders, less than 6% will be medically underweight. And
Mhm.
so to have someone say that when you finally get to X, I mean, it really gives that idea that we're not sick enough, that we don't
Yeah.
warrant help, that we don't warrant treatment. And that can be so toxic and so harmful. So for anybody who's watching this and listening, please know that you don't have to be a certain way to warrant help. You don't have to
Mhm.
get to a certain place to get treatment. If you're starting to think about this, that you think something is going on, please reach out for help. And
Mhm.
people start recovery and their journeys to recovery for so many different ways. So the journey is not going to be linear, right? You
Mhm.
talked about it
Yeah.
directly. It's not going to be like I'm deciding to recover, then there I go. It's like
Yeah.
one step forward, 26 steps back, and
Yeah.
3 steps forward. Um, what was your recovery process like?
Yeah, I mean, turbulent, turbulent. Oh my goodness. And I mean, I'm still working on it every day. I feel like you are, if you struggle with something, you're just it's always I mean, hopefully it's not always there, but for a lot of people it'll always kind of be there. I mean, it started just kind of going off of where I ended on my last thing of how it all started when it got to a point where it was getting to a really bad point, a bit of a dangerous point, and people around me started to notice, and I wasn't necessarily forced into care, but some ultimatums were placed, and I was still in my, you know, just blinder mindset. Like I was like, fine, I went into fake recovery for a while. I went to appease the people around me, to outpatient and to therapy, and they gave me all these tools to use, and great, all things that I actually think about now, and I'm like, wow, those are really good ideas. But during that recovery, like full transparency, I was not doing it. I was just like, okay, great. And I'd be in these group therapy sessions where everyone around me was struggling as well. We all look very different. And it was almost just like we were all doing the same thing, it seemed. Like everybody was just going through the motions. And it works for some people, but I found I struggled with that. So it really wasn't until, and this is going to sound so silly, but I got my dog Kevin during I got my dog
Yes,
Kevin when I was
yes.
at my lowest, because I was just like, you know what? Like, not that I want to be around, and I want to be around for my family and everything, but I was like, if I have something that I need to take care of, maybe that'll make me
Mhm.
take care of myself, I
Yeah,
guess. Not that saying get a puppy, but that's one thing that
I
motivated me.
always advocate getting a puppy, by the
Yeah, me too.
way.
No, I actually, like, it's so silly, but I literally got my dog and I was just like, okay, like, I guess I got to take care of Kevin. I got to take him on walks, which means I need energy for my walks. And, at that point, there was a lot of things where, like, you're not supposed to walk. And if you walk, you need to be eating XYZ. So there's a lot of rules placed. And I was like, okay, I'm going to take a step back from all of this outpatient and all like the very serious stuff. And I actually went to YouTube as well. And I was just like, if I just watch other people going through recovery, it'll make me feel better. Like, I don't know if you feel the same way, but I almost felt like I needed permission to recover
Yes,
from
absolutely.
strangers, from anybody, just
Yeah.
saying like, hey, like I allowed myself to eat all my cravings today and I'm still here. Nothing bad happened to me, you know? So it was watching a plethora of different creators go through that as well, on top of my dog. Everybody's saying Kevin fan club. Love Kevin.
Yeah.
Yes, we love Kevin. Um, also, sorry, side note. Um, I am looking at the chat as well, and I'm sure we'll talk to the chat a little bit later as
Yeah.
well.
Yeah.
But right now we're just doing like a Q&A thing. But anyway, yeah, so Kevin and YouTubers and that was like the two biggest things for me, which is crazy now because I was not a YouTuber. I wasn't a TikToker. I wasn't anybody back then. I was
Yeah.
just like, wow, this is really cool. Like these people online. So then to think that I could be that person for
Yeah.
somebody else, I was like, yeah, that's like, why wouldn't I do that? So yeah, that's kind of where that came from.
And that is right there the power of community. And it's the
Yeah.
power of navigating this journey together. And for the record, I had a Kevin myself. His name was
Yeah.
Sammy. He was a
Oh.
little nugget of a dog and
Oh.
was the reason why I got out of bed every morning. And
Yeah.
no matter what your why is, whether it is for a pet, for, for a friend, for your family, for a career, for your future self, and or even if it's for what you don't want anymore, like you don't want to be stuck in the prison that is the eating disorder or the shitty committee between your ears or any of that.
Yeah.
That is why we take those steps. So pushing forward, what have been the best parts of your recovery, or what has been
Mm.
amazing part of recovery?
I mean, the best part is just being able to spend time with loved ones and being able to experience stuff. Like I was a recluse when I was in it for years. I wouldn't leave my house. I wouldn't go out to dinner. Like it was miserable. So being able to actually spend time with my family and, still having those thoughts, but it not being the forefront of my mind, like maybe just in the back of my mind, but not letting it take over my whole mind. That's been the best part of it is just it not being my entire personality. So myself, I can shine through. No, it's not just my eating disorder.
Well, and I think that that's a big part of eating disorders, right? Because it
Yeah.
feels like it is your identity. It's who you are. And I
Yeah.
think one of the things that for me was so integral, and I think for so many people that we work with is the eating disorder is not who you are, it's what you're going through. And it was a part of you. And you're able to live your life beyond that. And it was part of
Hmm.
your story. It's not who you are. And I think that you said something that so resonated is being able to show up.
Hmm.
And I think for those of you who are watching that are struggling or have struggled, you can absolutely relate to that of like being somewhere but not being somewhere because your mind is everywhere but in the present. And I
Yeah.
think that that's such a beautiful part of recovery is or living your life beyond your eating disorder, recovered or healed, or however, whatever word you use or
Yeah.
connect to, because I do believe it is fluid. I really do, is just knowing that you get to show up. And
Yeah.
I know how that can feel, but
Yeah.
it is really beautiful at the same time.
It is. No, it absolutely is. Yeah.
Um, so this was actually one of your amazing community members that asked this question is what is your advice on helping a friend that is struggling or maybe dealing with a relapse? Like, how can they better show up for their friend?
Oh yeah, like somebody helping their own friend. Yeah, I
Yes.
mean, honestly, you want to come, I mean, for me, just going to speak from my personal experience. I have been approached in very angry ways and soft ways and comical ways. And, it depends on who the person is. But I don't think it's ever constructive to come at somebody from an angry point of view because you might not fully understand what that person is going through. And when I say that, I just mean like, why aren't you doing that? Why don't you just eat a burger? Why don't you just do that? It like accusatory is just never the way to go. So that's something I wouldn't do. It's not helpful at all. It's counterproductive, pretty much. But honestly, just asking how you can help, being like, what are you struggling with, and what can you do? How about, and you know the person obviously better than I do, but it's like, hey, maybe let's go do something together because what's hard when you're in it is allowing yourself to enjoy anything. So if you're with somebody else, and that helped me a lot, I would, you know, go out to dinner with my sister and she knew I was struggling with something and she's like, "Let's both get, something we really enjoy. Let's both get the mac and cheese. Get a fear food of some sort." So honestly, just asking them all those questions and learning about it. You need to learn about it to understand it. And that's asking a lot of people, but that was really helpful for me as my family actually like took some classes. They, looked at online forums and other things to really understand it and to be less angry. Because to be fair, they just didn't understand and they just didn't want their daughter, their sister, their niece, whatever, to be unhealthy because they can see they're just like, why are you doing this? Like you're smart. I thought you were smart. Why are you doing this? So just coming at it from a concerned point and just offering your help or how you can help. Just try to understand it more rather than coming with all the answers because you don't have the answers unless you're a healthcare professional. But even then, sometimes they don't have the answers
And you
either.
don't have all the answers.
No, they don't. So,
I I so love that. And one of the things that, I know in the chat and I know in the question box, there was a lot of questions around, do I have an eating disorder? I'm struggling. I don't know if I
yes,
have an eating disorder. And one of the things that I will say for if this is for you or if you're concerned about a loved one, I would
mhm,
say absolutely call the Alliance. We have an amazing helpline that's staffed
yes,
by the most phenomenal therapists, and we're open Monday through Friday from 9 a.m. to 7 p.m. And it's free to call. They will absolutely be able to help you navigate it. And if you're a loved one, we have amazing groups you can be part of. We have friends and family support groups. You can absolutely also call the helpline. One of the things that I will tell you is that if you think that you may be struggling with an eating disorder, it's definitely worth finding out more about it. So
yeah. There's a
you
lot of
don't have
questions about
to,
that in the chat.
yeah, and that's really the thing is, don't like if one of the things that I would love to have told myself, like, and we're going to get to that question, and I'm sure
Sure.
you would have loved to tell yourself, is you don't have to sit there and wait and contemplate and question, like,
Hmm.
am I sick? Do I have an eating disorder? Am I sick enough?
Hmm.
Is You can do it right now. You can pick up the phone, you can send an email, you can send a DM. Hell, do a smoke signal if you want.
Yeah.
But you don't have to navigate this on your own, and you don't have to sit there just questioning. There
Hmm.
are people and places that are so willing and wanting to help.
People in the chat are asking where the helpline is also.
Absolutely. So the helpline is at 866-662-1235. We'll make sure that we also add it into the chat
Yeah.
as
Let,
well.
let me add
So
that.
it's
So
eight six six
six
six
six
six two
62
1235.
35. Okay.
So
I
we're
will add
here.
that. And then also,
Perfect.
I pinned a comment at the top. You can donate there, or that also goes to the site, right, as well.
Absolutely.
So,
So we have this, this is Eating Disorders Awareness Week, and we have this amazing weekend, which I'll share a little bit about. And for the community watching, Chris has started her own fundraising page, and the funds raised on her page are going to fund one of our free therapist-led help support groups. So if you can support, help us continue to provide free services for the community. But um,
yeah,
thank you for asking that question. Um, Another question for you, and then actually two more questions for you, and then we'll turn it over to some of the questions in the chat. Is
sure.
what advice would you give to someone who's dealing with an eating disorder and trying to heal and trying to recover? What's
Hmm.
something you would tell them?
I mean, a mix of everything that I've already said. And it, I just when you ask that, I just think of the stubborn little mean person I was when I'm not, I was just permanently like this, like, yeah, whatever. But if you're struggling with it, it's just, life is so incredibly fleeting and we only get one shot at it and we're all gonna end up in the same place. And, I'm under the guise of, I really want to enjoy the life that I've been given, and I don't want to give power to a number or to the way I look. It's just, you are the only one that cares about it. Nobody else cares about it. Like, literally nobody else. And I know how heavy it feels. Um, but it is so freeing to just not give it power, to just be like, no. And I know it's a little devil on your shoulder. And I know the devil's on your shoulder being like, don't listen to her. She doesn't know anything. But
Mhm.
I'm here on the other side. And I mean, obviously still working on it, but it is so worth it. It is so worth being able to hang out with your loved ones and your family and to do things that you would never do because of your eating disorder. Just don't let it win because your life, it is so worth living to the fullest, not just living to the next day and living for, numbers or whatever it is. So that would be my advice.
I love that. And sometimes it can feel very daunting, right? It's like, oh
Mhm.
my gosh, I'm here. And what Chris is talking about is here. And I can't even imagine what I'm doing tomorrow or how I'm going to get there.
Yeah.
Is really remembering that recovery happens 1 minute, 1 moment, one breath at a time. And we don't have to think about tomorrow. We don't have to think about next week or next year. We just have to worry about right now. And
Yeah.
you're struggling in this moment, if you had a trip or a fall, we have the next moment to pick ourselves up, dust ourselves off, and keep on moving forward. Because I think, to your point is recovery is not at all what I thought it was going to be.
Mm-mm.
Like, and I don't know what I thought it was going to be. For some reason, born and raised on Disney movies, I was like happily ever after, and I'm like,
Yeah.
this crap, like that I've
Yeah.
come to,
Yeah.
and and with all of that being said, I would never give up my recovery for anything in the world
Yeah.
because, I say this a lot. It's not sunshine bunnies and rainbows, but it's so damn good because I get to
Hmm.
show up. And so, for my last question is, and it's a part two of what I just asked you is if you could get into a time machine and go back to Chris, standing with their arms crossed, and
Hmm.
what would you say to them, knowing what you know now to you?
Oh my gosh.
Big
Um,
question.
yeah, all the trouble you're going through right now is not worth it. Just like, I don't know, just to, I don't know, just like life is so much bigger than your ED. Like you have no idea. You think you are encompassed in this dark hole and the light is at the end of the tunnel. It's really not that far reaching to just get out of this and stop being in your own head. And it's just not worth it. It's just not worth it. It was never worth it. It's not worth it. It's not cool. It's not cute. It's not freeing. It's not it's everything. It's just negative. It is just a negative shadow that will just bring you down in every way. So just it's just not worth it. Just, let go. You know, I don't know. That's like my biggest thing is I just let it be. Like what will be. You know? I don't know. That's a lot of things to say. I would have walked away already by now.
Ah, but I mean, one of the things that I was just thinking is, could you imagine showing Chris then, you now, like
Yeah.
in this moment?
Oh no.
I mean, I don't know if I would show me then now, I would probably give myself the middle finger and like walk away
Yeah,
because I would be
exactly.
like, maybe you, but not me, right?
Yeah.
And that's really what it's about is that um that it does get better and that you don't have to
Yeah.
do this alone. And this is not something you chose. This is eating disorders are biologically based brain illnesses that are mental health disorders. You're not supposed to recover alone.
Yeah.
Healing happens in community. It happens through connections to care, which is why please reach out to our helpline. Please come to our support groups. And I just want to do a little plug for this weekend, which is our Not One More weekend. This Saturday on March 1st, we have 16 hours of free therapist led support groups. So from 8 a.m. Eastern Standard Time to midnight, I will be on the 8 o'clock and I will be at the end of the 12 a.m. It's fun times. Um,
Yeah.
there's free support groups. There's help on our helplines. You don't have to struggle alone. And again, it is all found at notonemore.co. That's where you can find Chris's fundraising page. Um, so with that, I would like to turn it back over to you. If there's a few questions from the chat that
Yeah.
you want to get to before we wrap up.
Yeah, yeah. If anybody has questions in the chat, I know that you've said questions all throughout, a lot of which we've answered. So I'm pretty sure you'll be able to watch this back if you'd like to watch everything back. So no worries there. But I will let's see, I'll look for some. How bad does it have to get to be considered a disorder? I mean, if I mean, I'll answer and you can answer, but I mean, if you're in that mindset already that it is just a constant thought in your brain and you just can't get away from it, I mean, and the thing is that you don't need a diagnosis to have a disorder, and that's like my biggest thing is that
Yeah.
I felt like I needed to have a diagnosis from a doctor that could tell my family to feel legitimate, but that's just not the case.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's why you have the helpline too, because if you feel like it, you should just reach out for
Mhm.
help. But yeah, feel free obviously to answer as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think what my cardinal rule is when you can no longer do your life in the manner that you were functioning, when your thoughts about food and weight and body and all of that is the first thing you
Mm,
think of every morning and the last thing you think of every night, and it really steals every other thought in between. Um, that's sort of where it changes from like disordered patterns to an actual eating disorder. But I
Mhm.
really love, Chris, that you talked about like you don't have to hit this or that
Yeah.
for you to warrant care and support. So
Yeah,
echoing what
absolutely.
you said.
Yeah, absolutely. Some people are asking in the chat also if their parents are going to know if they call the line, or if yeah, if their parents will find out if they, is it anonymous? Anonymous, basically.
It's
Okay.
anonymous. Yes, yes,
It's
absolutely. If
anonymous.
you, it's 100% anonymous. And if you do choose to then take the steps to get connected to care, it varies from state to state on your age about going to see professionals. But
Hmm.
calling the helpline, I mean, the amazing clinicians that answer the phones. They've had, I mean, calls from really young kids, and
Hmm.
they're there to help. They're there, and also just for the wide scope of humans watching, we've also had calls from 90-year-olds that have struggled
Yeah.
for a lifetime, and that really means that it's never too late to recover. In fact, we have a weekly group um, for individuals midlife and beyond, and we have people that are in their 80s that attend group and that are on the
Yeah.
path to recovery. So it doesn't matter where you are on life's journey. We're here to help you no matter where
Yeah.
you're at.
That's amazing. There's a couple questions that I think we can do together, but there is
Yeah.
I or do you have any tips for going through recovery with an unsupportive family member? And then people are asking how you can support, which we kind of answered already, but
Yeah.
that's hard if you are going through it and you don't have that support system, especially, and this person specifically said their mom,
Yeah.
which that's really hard. I mean, and
Yeah.
hopefully, and I don't know how old you are either. I mean, I don't know if you're, younger than 18, but there are places like this where you can go and you can get help and you can, I'm assuming, be of any age and reach out and call for help. Otherwise, I mean, yeah, there's communities like this one that we have for my own community to ask questions and everything. But if you want professional help, then we have places like the National Alliance for Eating Disorders. So,
Yeah, absolutely. And I will tell
yeah.
you that family can be who you make it. It can be blood,
Yeah.
it can be chosen family. And I will tell you, we have so many people that come to our groups because we have 14 groups a week
Oh,
where
wow.
literally the groups have become their family. So um until you're able to have that relationship, and perhaps one day you will like you may not ever to have that relationship, but
Hmm.
please know you can create other relationships that can be supportive, that can help you through this journey. And one of the things that's just so beautiful is people from all 50 states and 88 countries around the world attend our groups, so you don't have
Oh,
to be
there you go.
US based to come to
That
group
answers another
from,
question. People are
yeah,
asking if they can, okay, outside the US, you
anywhere.
can,
Yeah, anywhere. We are English speaking in our group so far. Our helpline is English and Spanish speaking. But just come, just join, listen. We are there. You can find everything on our website. And I know that my amazing team member is going to put our website in the chat as well. But
perfect.
um, you know, Chris, I could talk to you all day.
Yeah.
I really do want to echo that. When I started the Alliance almost 25 years ago, I always had this thought of if only one day people that have platforms would talk about eating disorders. Because when I started this, nobody talked about eating disorders. And I
Yeah.
feel like we've come so far and we still have so far to go. Um, Thank you for using your
Yeah,
platform.
of
Thank you for
course.
allowing people to feel seen, heard, valued, and supported. I think you're incredible. Your community is incredible. Honestly, when we did that reel together on Instagram,
Yeah.
the community, the kindness around it,
Yeah.
there's no other. And that's a testament to you. So thank you.
I mean, yeah, no, I'm happy. I'm happy to just be a tool because I mean, I went to the internet to find support, and I found it, and I'm happy to be one of those people that people can find support. So I'm more than happy to help in any way. And yeah, if anybody out there is struggling and you are struggling with support, please feel free to reach out. You can also donate at the pinned comment I put up in the chat as well. And that goes to the site as well. So if you want to learn more, it's there. So it's in the pinned comment. But yeah, I don't know if there's anything else you want to say.
I think that's it. I
That's
just
it?
want to say thank you. And
Yeah.
again, if you watching or someone you know is struggling, we're only a phone call, an email, a DM away. You don't have to go through this alone. So
Yeah.
thank you so much, Chris.
Absolutely. Thank you as well. Thank you as well. And thank you to everybody in the chat. Thank you for hanging out. I'll probably go live at some point again. I'm not sure. This was my first one, so thank you for bearing with us. And I'm going to attempt to end the stream. It might not end. Hopefully it does. But I just want to say I love you guys very much. Thank you so much. You can go to that pinned comment, learn more, donate. And yeah, I just appreciate all of you. And thank you so much, Joanna. This was wonderful.
Hi,
Perfect.
everyone.
Okay, I think. Okay, edit in studio. Okay, dismiss, I guess.